What is going on, Rivian fans? Welcome back to Financial Journey. So it was one hell of a wild ride the last week. It actually did hit the new 52-week low, or I guess all-time low of $14. There's a ton of fear on the market. So when it comes down to it though, this is the perfect time where you do find a lot of good value plays. And once again, I just want to put it in perspective on how Rivian is a good substantial value play right now. So I'm going to go over all the stuff you need to know. Make sure you guys hit that thumbs up and subscribe. Always greatly appreciate that. And without further ado, let's get right to it. So as you can see, Rivian did close 2.55% down on Friday. But like I said, there's a ton of fear out in the market. The fear and greed index is currently at 24, which is extreme fear, because largely of the whole Silicon Valley Bank situation. And a lot of people are anticipating significant rollover. And what I mean by rollover is this. So this was posted by Trader JJ on Twitter. But for instance, even Roku had 487 million of cash kind of at Silicon Valley Bank, similar to Rocket Labs, Roblox as well. But when it comes down to it, a lot of those companies are unfortunately going to lose a lot of their money. But this is where I feel that, for instance, Rivian is going down a little bit unjustified. And what I mean by that, Rivian has about $12 billion in cash and cash equivalents. The current market cap for Rivian is 13.04. That is just completely mind-blowingly low. So the fact that even just piecing those two together shows it's at a very significant discount, and this whole situation is not really going to affect it. In reality, this is one of the reasons why I feel that it's a little bit more of an overreaction when it comes down to Rivian in particular. And when it comes to, for instance, the metrics, I'm a big numbers guy. So I like to have justification. I don't like to have so much emotion in the stock. I like to have the data speak for itself. And for instance, looking at the book value, you can see it is at 1. That is crazy low, very, very low in fact. And theoretically, if it does go below 1, that means it is at and below its intrinsic value. So in reality, this is where a lot of analysts are seeing this discount and giving targets. So for instance, yesterday, even though there was a massive amount of fear, look at what Bank of America did. They initiated coverage on Rivian and gave a $40 price target. And John Murphy, for the most part, is pretty on point. He does have a 56% success rating out of 290 recommendations. And I don't know if you guys know that, but in general, that's actually fairly good. So of course, I'm not a financial advisor, so do your own due diligence at the end of the day. Even 3 days ago, Mizuho did maintain their $35 rating. And it looks like Rakesh does have a 58% success rating. And even 5 days ago, it was 25, 28. So a lot of people see the whole earnings as a overreaction, as I've done a video on that. But now, unfortunately, another circumstance has really popped up, and of course Rivian is going down as a result of that. But in reality, like I said, if you are, for instance, Roku, Rocket Labs, Roblox, or various other companies that did have a substantial amount of money in Silicon Valley, then yeah, you might need to worry a little bit. But in Rivian's case, they have more than enough cash, and they're not directly affected by this whole Silicon Valley Bank situation. So in general, this is why I do feel that it's still an overreaction. So definitely you can make a very long-term position and feel fairly comfortable. Of course, I'm not here to say that it's not going to have some volatility or so forth, but generally speaking, Rivian is actually getting the numbers. So they're hitting their targets. They're still burning through quite a lot of cash, but I think that's kind of fair to assume given the circumstances of them adding that second line and so forth. So definitely it's something to keep in mind. But generally speaking, this is where you do see a huge amount of big money that is buying. So these are all the transactions so far that did occur on Friday, just on the secondary market. So secondary market is what typical retail investors do trade on. And these are the transactions over $100,000. So you do see, for instance, 9.04 million. You also see 1 million, 4.39 million. So you see a lot of big money buying. And of course, that wouldn't necessarily occur if it was a crappy stock or if it was anticipated to go down. And plus, you can also see if these were buys or sells based on, for instance, the bid and the ask at the time. So for instance, this 1 million was sold at $14.72, or I guess bought, because you can see the ask at the time was $14.71, so it was a market buy. Similar goes for this one. All of the big money is physically buying, and these are the transactions on the secondary market. Some people don't like secondary market because it's very much linked to shorting, more often enough at least. So there was 1.2 million, 1.06, 1.03, 2.65, 1.59. There's a ton of big money buying on Friday. So once again, I know a lot of people like to spin fear quite a lot, and unfortunately retail investors typically do feed off of that fear a lot, but the data does not validate the fact that Rivian should be going down at this low, especially to $14. That is just crazy. And as I said on my previous video, I did buy in at $15.30. And in reality, I'm pretty comfortable with that. I've been doing covered calls for the last couple of weeks, and I'm pretty happy with that. Of course, you could always do that, covered calls or various things if you don't feel comfortable just to hedge your bets, but of course options are a whole different beast. Highly suggest in researching them if you do not know. But like I said, the metrics and the multiples kind of speak for itself. Analysts clearly are seeing the huge discount. So in reality, I'll just give you a quick summary as far as the technicals. On a side note, if you do like a lot of good compiled information, Seeking Alpha Premium does in fact have now a 7-day free trial. So all you have to do, click on the link in the description below or the comments. Has a lot of good analysis, news, and so forth, transcripts, SEC filings, has everything that you need in one area. So take advantage of that 7-day free trial as well. But like I said, I'll give you a quick summary on the technicals. So as far as the technicals go, it is below a lot of the pivotal moving averages that I like to use. So what you have to look at next is more so the Fibonacci levels. So currently $14.16. So in reality, this is where I do feel, like I said, we are well below our intrinsic value, just way overdone. And we're actually below the S3. And a lot of cases, you don't typically see that. So in reality, we're kind of in a gray zone potentially, because obviously never really been there before. This is new 52-week and all-time lows. So in reality, the Fibonacci doesn't necessarily kind of cover that per se. So in reality, the next things to really watch for is just the big whole numbers. So $14, $13.50, and then $13. Those are more of the psychological big support levels that are going to follow here. So in reality, the next one to watch for, obviously we already do know it bounced off of it, is $14, then $13.50 and so forth. But this, even among itself, does signal that it's at a huge discount. And I look at a lot of data all day long, and the fact is, for instance, S3 right here, typically a lot of growth stocks right now are trading between the S1 and the pivot. Some bad ones are trading between the S2 and the S1, but as you can see with Rivian, it's below the S3. So even in that regard, it is very, very low. And just putting it in perspective, so stochastic right now is at 9, very oversold, and RSI is currently at 35. Momentum is currently at -6. So momentum shows the number of retail investors have just been getting out. But like I said, I think retail gets too much involved and has too much emotion in the game. So they see, for instance, potentially going from 35 down to 14, and then they massively panic. Whereas in reality, a lot of institutions are more than happy to buy all of your available shares out there. Analysts as well, even despite the current situation, are still giving very high ratings on Rivian. So once again, it's just a little bit more of a mentality thing. So let me know your thoughts on that in the comments below. If you have been buying, selling, holding, what you are doing with Rivian, give yourself a shout out in the comments below. If you haven't already, hit that thumbs up and subscribe. I always greatly appreciate that. If you do like my Rivian content, want to support the channel, take a look at my memberships, link in the description below, or just hit the join button at the bottom of the screen. With that said, appreciate you guys watching. Let's all make a lot of money on Rivian.